Okay, so today I've moved outside to have a change of scenery, and I've been a bit more organised, and I've got my computer with a few things I wanted to mention because I felt that over the last few weeks as I've been doing these A+ exams, there's been I've been looking at Reddit, the CompTIA subreddit, and looking at a few different posts and stuff from people there, and lots of people are looking for information about the exam, about what's in it, how to prepare for it, what I did. So this, I guess, is kind of like a video version of that, a full kind of description of the A+ itself. So, in terms of the content in the A+ exams, I thought it was very good. I was really impressed by how wide the knowledge was. I guess that's the whole point of the A+, is that it's going to test a wide range of things, but personally now, having completed it, I feel so much more. I'll talk a little bit more about, A+ in relation to being a pen tester, but just in general now, I feel so much more comfortable talking or kind of listening to conversations about tech, about whether that's related to stuff in the A+, or just stuff which is actually beyond what I'd studied in the A+, but is really you understand a lot more of what's going on. You have the basics, the foundational knowledge of how things work. So it covered a wide range of things: networking, hardware, software, troubleshooting, lots of troubleshooting, printers, security, cloud. So understanding, having a certification in those, obviously you're not in those things, but having a certification based understanding of those things is really, really cool. So on that side of things, really happy with it. Pass marks, so I got on the core one I got 770, and the pass mark is 675, I think, and on the core 2 I got 733, and the pass mark is 700. So I was much more. I did better in the first one than the second one, but a pass is a pass. I don't even think on the CompTIA. I'm going to see if that's annoying. I'm going to wait a minute. Okay, hopefully that plane is gone. So on the CompTIA website itself, when you log in, it doesn't even show you what your score is, it just shows you pass or fail. So obviously I'm happy that I passed, and I don't really care what I got. It's not like I'm really going for gold with these things. I just wanted the certification. The material I used, I've talked about it in this series, but seeing as I'm doing a whole thing all together now, I used the Mike Myers videos. Those are my primary resources, but it hasn't been. It's good. It's very good if you've got no background knowledge at all. He explains things for the sake of explaining them, rather than just teaching what's on the syllabus. But there's a few things which he doesn't, which is a bit difficult, and a few things that he misses out from the syllabus. So I used Mike Myers to do the general things, and then I cross-referenced what I was learning, exam objective by exam objective. That day in the morning I'd study the Mike Myers version of that, and then in the afternoon I'd study the Professor Messer version of that, and take notes on both, and more taking notes on the Mike Myers, and then cross-reference, see what I missed or whatever. So those were really good in terms of getting the knowledge in. Then I took all the things which were the most important from those two exams, from those two courses, the things that I really felt like I had to memorise. I put them into flashcards, started doing flashcards, and then once I had done a few flashcard sessions and kind of going through, that's when I started doing my past papers, and I did the total seminars, past papers, the Mike Myers seminars, the Mike Myers past papers, and the exam compass ones. The Mike Myers ones were excellent in my opinion. There were, I would say, on both of the exams, the real exams, there were actual questions word for word which had been in the Mike Myers ones. So in terms of being able to prepare you for what the style of the questions are like, it was perfect. The exam compass ones will hit you really hard on specific knowledge. Will hit you 20 questions on one really narrow topic, which is good for if you're going to do all of them, but I wouldn't if you're going to, because there's maybe 25 on each, so for you to cover the whole syllabus you'd have to do all 25 practice papers to be able to have covered the whole syllabus, unlike the Mike Myers ones, which are just 90 questions, and they're set up, everything gives you a good idea. So those two together, again, like the Mike Myers and Professor Messer together, were really good. And I was going to say a little review of the materials. That's it really. Professor Messer was very good. I also bought the my study guide, opened it about once. Useless in my opinion. I mean, if you were going to try and study using that study guide, it would take you 6 months to prepare for those exams, because it's enormous and it goes into so much detail. And if I ever felt I didn't understand something, I wouldn't turn to the study guide anyway, I'd turn to the internet and just Google it. So completely useless in my opinion. But then it's worth saying that all of the stuff I did was video based, and that just reflects how I learn. So I'm not very good with books. I'm okay, like I can do it, but I don't like using books if possible. So for me that was sufficient, just doing these 2 study video courses. But some people might not like that and might prefer to go for something else. I personally wouldn't recommend. I mean, I didn't have much exposure to it, but I wouldn't recommend the Mike Myers ones, and maybe try and find something else. But you'd have to do your own independent research and find if that was something that was actually recommended or not. Tips for people, I mean, there's not really many tips other than just practicing and keeping going, understanding things at its core, because in the exam you're not going to be able to just rely on flashcards. You're going to have to troubleshoot a scenario that you don't know, and it's going to require you to learn individually the different, to know how things work and to find out what things are. DHCP, DNS, things like that are all going to be coming up time and time again in both exams, so getting a good understanding of how those work, and also really focus on as much troubleshooting as possible, because the exam questions are almost always almost every single question is a scenario rather than just here's the knowledge, and you have to try and troubleshoot it. Or sometimes it is just testing a piece of knowledge, but it's dressed up as a troubleshooting question. But a lot of the time there is actual troubleshooting to do. In terms of, I barely got tested on any of the ports. I barely got tested on anything Linux. I didn't get tested in Core 2 on any of the permissions. And the practical based questions, that's another thing. I didn't prepare for them very much, which is bad. I actually got 3 in the first one and only 1 in the second one. But I was focused more on the other ones, and then I could kind of, if I knew what to do in the practical ones, then that's great, and if not, then I was more focused on the other one, rather than spending hours and hours at command line trying to use all of these commands like hands-on, which is what I would have done if I was trying to focus on just these practical based questions, performance based, sorry. Then I would have spent hours and hours just going through all the different, copying and pasting and netstat and net commands and shares and everything, and I didn't do any of that, and in my case none of it came up in my exam. So yeah. And time taken, it was about 34 days, not 39, well, it depends if you're being really, really strict, because I did a few days where I was not sure what I was doing at all, so I just started looking over the syllabus for a few days. That was before I'd actually decided, okay, now I'm going to start studying. So 34 days of hard study, about 350 hours of study time in that. As I mentioned, I do have an online teaching job, so that's possible. I can do that quite easily. I don't have a 9 to 5. The exams themselves went well. It was obviously a test of knowledge most of the time. Sometimes there was a little bit of exam nerves in there, but I've done a lot of exams now, so that part wasn't something. But if you haven't done a lot of exams, definitely try and take a few big breaths before you start, and just get don't worry about passing or failing at that point. There's no point, just wait until the end. That's the only time it's going to make a difference. Try and just focus on the question in front of you and just dedicating it, because if you can do that and not have to read a question 4 times over, then you're going to save yourself a lot of time. Timing, by the way, I had no problems with time. There's loads of time for the exams. I also found that the Core 2 was more difficult to prepare for. The Core 1 there was a lot more to learn, definitely, which is good and bad, I guess. But the Core 2, there wasn't as much. For example, all the hardware, all the RAID stuff, all the ports, all of that big bulky knowledge stuff was in Core 1. And Core 2 didn't have any of that. It didn't have anything to just kind of sit and memorise. So that meant I was less aware of what the exam was going to be comprised of, so for that reason it was a little bit more difficult, and the exam reflected that. Finally, I want to talk about how important I think this has been for me trying to become a pen tester. And on this I could talk for a while, but I'm going to just basically say I feel indescribably more prepared for being a pen tester now than I would have done if I had not done it. So many things I'd already knew of or heard of, I was just doing through blind following, and I had no idea how anything worked. This course was probably the perfect course for me to have done. The networking course, I've just kind of finished going through the networking course and taking the bits and bobs that Network Plus, that is, the bits and bobs that I think are most useful for that, but in comparison to the A Plus, it's just been amazing for understanding the big topics, and then to drill down from there is awesome. But that's exactly what I wanted, and so I'm really, really happy. And I think, personally, if you have no experience and are considering being a pen tester, the A Plus is the perfect place to start, because it sets you up so well with the knowledge for so many things to come. And that's it. So as I said, in terms of where I'm at right now, I've just, as of a few hours ago, finished my gleaning of the Network Plus syllabus for anything related to hacking, and I'm now beginning my EJPT officially today, which is amazing. After however many days this is, I'm finally able to start learning to hack. So that's me, that's a little update, and I'll catch you in the next one.